In my previous video, I talked about how the Herman Miller Vantum's price was lowered permanently by $200 and why that price drop is so significant. If you haven't watched part 1, you can check it out up here. In this video, part 2, I'm going to be comparing the Herman Miller Vantum with 4 possible alternative chairs that are all in the same price range or even lower in price than the Vantum. Those 4 chairs are going to be the used classic Herman Miller Aeron, a used Steelcase Amia, the Haworth Soji, and the 4th chair is going to be a classic racing style gaming chair. My favorite of the bunch right now is the AndaSeat Kaiser 3, so I'm going to be bringing in that one. I have in-depth reviews of all 4 of those chairs. I'll link those down in the description below in case you want to check them out. Let's get honest. If I've helped you in your pursuit to find better back and butt comfort and you want to support this channel, please use my links when purchasing your chairs or consider donating to the channel to help keep it going. I really appreciate it. And of course, don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a comment down below about which of these chairs is your favorite, and any questions you have, I do my best to read all of them and respond to all your questions. First up is the iconic Herman Miller Aeron. Now, if you were to go out right now and buy a brand new remastered Herman Miller Aeron, it's gonna cost you about $1,800 US. However, if you go on the used marketplace on Facebook or on Craigslist, these older generations called the classic Aerons are everywhere. And these things go average price for about $400 to $600 US. Now, Herman Miller does not make headrests for this chair. This one here is sold and designed by a company called Authorized Headrest. And I think they make the best headrest out there. If you get a mesh version, you can get a 1-to-1 match in material and color with the Herman Miller Aerons, by far the best. And they're not cheap though. They cost about $200. You can use my code Entourage for $5 off. But that brings the grand total of a used Aeron with a headrest to be about the same price of the Vantum at anywhere between $600 to $800 US. Pros of the Aeron over the Vantum is that first, it's gonna be much more breathable. Now, both chairs have mesh backs, but then the Herman Miller Aeron has a mesh seat as well, making this chair incredibly breathable, which is awesome for those of you who get really hot. Not only that, but mesh also serves as being able to clean booty juices much easier. It doesn't absorb them. So if you were to just go crazy and pass your shame into the chair, on mesh you can clean it pretty easily and a lot of it's kind of flowing through, versus fabric, it's just going directly onto that. The next benefit is that the classic Aerons, not the new remastered ones, the classic Aerons are built like tanks. These things have a near all metal construction on the outside and also in the housing on the bottom as well. That thing is almost nearly all metal, and I've had mechanics come out to repair my classic Aeron and they talk about how much they love the classic Aerons even over against the remastered Aerons because of how well these things are built. Compare that with the nearly all plastic, I think it is pretty much all plastic build of the Herman Miller Vantum. Third pro is that if you decide to get a headrest from Authorized Headrest, this thing is an S-tier headrest. It is just so good. Not only do you get up and down control that's nice and smooth, but then you also get forward and back control as well. So if you want to sit further back, if you just kind of want it out of the way, you can control that as well. And then of course you get the tilt on the headrest and you get a much nicer cushion on the Authorized Headrest as well. And the final pro of the Aeron is that it is much more customizable than the Vantum. Not only does the Aeron come in 3 different sizes, A for small, B for medium, and C for large, but then if you get an Aeron that has all the paddles, all the switches, all the controls, again, I have an in-depth video on that, which you can check out here, you can get much more adjustability inside of the Aeron or from the Aeron than you can from the Vantum. Some cons about the Aeron is that not everybody is going to like a mesh seat. Some people have reported that their butts fall asleep in the Aeron, and some people have also noted that a mesh seat in general causes a little bit more pressure on the bottom of their thighs just because of the way that mesh works. Now, speaking of the seat, even though the Herman Miller Aeron comes in 3 sizes, A, B, and C, the seat pan is static in all of those chairs. Compared to the Vantum, this seat slides in and out for a little extra depth in case you need it. Another con is that the Aeron was designed for you to sit properly inside of the chair, which means that there is no room for ergonomic rebels inside of this chair because of the hard edges on the sides here. So if you decide to sprawl your legs out, there is a limit because of the hard edges here. And if you're somebody who likes to tuck leg under leg, well then you see right here, it's making so much contact with my ankle, it's forcing it upwards, and this is extremely extremely uncomfortable. So if you're not planning on sitting properly all day, every day, then this could be a problem. Another con about the used Aerons is that these things are now extremely old. We're talking the average age of any used Aeron you're gonna purchase is probably gonna be about 17 to 25 years old. And you gotta ask yourself like, wow, do I really wanna pay $450 for a 17-year-old, a 25-year-old product? Like, God knows what's been in this in the 25 years that it's been around. I will say the fact that these things can be 25 years old and totally in great condition goes to show how well these things were built. The next con is going to be the warranty. Now, Herman Miller offers a 12-year warranty on all their products. Now, just because of the age of the Aerons, almost none of them are gonna have any warranty left. However, regardless, anytime you buy a Herman Miller product secondhand, the warranty does not transfer. Now, there is a way around both of these problems, and it's to buy a used Herman Miller Aeron from a reputable dealer. The guys that I trust are CrandallOffice.com. They have an excellent reputation online, but what I love about them is they don't just like wipe down the chair and get rid of the dust. They actually sanitize the entire chair, they replace parts that need to be replaced, and then they offer their own 12-year warranty on the entire chair, not just like this part and that part there. So go ahead and check them out. It will cost a little extra though, at about $700 plus-ish. Next up is the Steelcase Amia. This is my favorite Steelcase chair. I love it. It looks just so unassuming, yet it's so super duper comfortable. Now, if you were to buy this thing new from Steelcase, it's gonna cost you about $1,000 US. However, you can buy one used, again, from the folks at CrandallOffice.com for about half that price at about $500. And again, excellent reputation, 12-year warranty, they clean the chair, blah, blah, blah. So $500 comes in significantly lower than the $800 price point of the Herman Miller Vantum. The pros of the Steelcase Amia is that it's gonna come with a 12-year warranty. If you buy from Crandall Office, it'll come from Crandall Office. If you buy from Steelcase, it'll come from Steelcase that also offers 12-year warranties on their chairs. The second pro of the Amia is that this seat cushion is one of the best seat cushions I've ever sat on. Not only is it super duper dense, but it's still pretty soft to the touch. And when I sit in it, I have never ever once felt the bottom. Compare that to the Vantum, where this seat cushion isn't the highest quality seat cushion, and some people have reported that when sitting on it, they can feel the bottom on this chair. Plus, it's a lot firmer than the Amia's cushion. And then another pro of the Amia is that the fabric on this is significantly smoother than on the Vantum. The Vantum has a very pretty rough fabric compared to the Amia, which is pretty darn soft. The next pro of the Amia is that it is just a much open, freer chair. So you get a lot more space in this chair to do what you need to. Even the back doesn't feel very constricting at all. Compare that to the Vantum, which feels just like a much more confined space. Not only are you sitting upright, even a little forward in this chair, but you also don't feel like you get a lot of like openness in the chair because the cushion kind of slouches inward. So putting your legs out can feel a little uncomfortable because you start to feel pressure on your outer thighs as soon as you begin to open that leg up. And because the seat pan isn't as wide, you also don't feel like you get a lot of space in the chair. The next pro of the Amia is that you can really fine tune how much back tilt tension is in this chair thanks to the knob system that you just kind of turn as much as you like or as little as you like. Now, the reason why I like this is because I like to leave my chair unlocked and then in a natural tilt position. On the Vantum, I love that it's innovative and the way they use the system, but I feel like it's just too predetermined. I believe you get 8 or 9 settings here, but each one is a notch instead of just an infinite knob. So even at the highest or most tension setting, I feel like sitting in this chair, I just lean back a little too much, and I'd like to lean back a little less, but unfortunately I can't do that in this chair. The first and biggest con about the Steelcase Amia is that there is no headrest option, and as far as I can tell, there's nowhere to put one anyway. And the more and more I talk to you all, the more and more you all tell me that no headrest means a deal breaker. The next con about the Steelcase Amia is that it's not gonna be as breathable compared to the Vantum because it's got a mesh back on the Vantum compared to a fabric and cushion back on the Steelcase Amia. The third con is just going to be pure aesthetics. Like, I think if someone were to see the Steelcase Amia and you told them you paid $500 for it, $1,000 for it, they would be like, what? That's crazy, it doesn't even look that good. Compared to the Vantum, I think if somebody were to look at this, you would immediately go like, oh, that chair was probably expensive. And then the last con is going to be, of course, if you were to buy the Steelcase Amia new, that would be $1,000, which is $200 more than a new Herman Miller Vantum, which has a headrest. The Haworth Soji actually comes in cheaper than the Herman Miller Vantum, coming in at about $600 to $700 US. Pros of the Soji is going to be that Haworth also has an excellent reputation, offers 12-year warranty on the entire chair, just like the Vantum from Herman Miller. The next pro about the Haworth Soji is the fact that it is a much wider and roomier chair than the Vantum. Just like with the Steelcase Amia, not only are you going to get cushion all around, but because it's just a wider chair, you can really open up, you can really spread out and kind of go ergonomic rebel mode inside of this chair compared to the Vantum, which just feels a lot smaller. And again, because of the curves in the cushion downwards on the inside, it kind of bends in this way. When you open those legs up, you kind of feel a little bit more tension here because it's not necessarily a flat pad like here on the Soji. Now, when it comes to the cushion, again, the Soji has a softer cushion, it's got a wider cushion, and the fabric is going to be softer compared to the Vantum, which is not only using a more firm cushion, but it's also not as wide, it's also a little bit scratchy. And on the Soji, I've never once felt the bottom on this chair, again, compared to the Vantum, where I do feel like sometimes after sitting in this chair for a while, I do feel the hard bottom inside of this chair. Another pro about the Haworth Soji is that you can much more precisely control the back tilt tension. So using this knob handle here, you can tighten it all the way, and when I sit in the chair and tilt back, I'm barely tilting back in the chair. This is exactly the way I like to sit, with it totally tightened and with me just barely, slightly leaning back inside of the chair. Compare that to the Vantum, which has predetermined settings for you using a knob. Again, I love that, this is pretty innovative so that you don't have to spin it forever, but the fact that even at the topmost setting, look how much I'm leaning back inside of this chair. And then the final pro about the Soji is that if you opt to get the optional upgrade of forward tilt, you can do that inside of this chair. What forward tilt is that you can pull this thing and then now your seat tilts forward, which means you are leaning a little bit more forward. So if you need to get closer and you like to play like this when you game, or you like to get closer to what you're doing, there are a lot of benefits of this position, one of which is that it relieves pressure off of that lower back. The biggest con of the Haworth Soji is, once again, no headrest option available. The other cons about the Soji are actually very similar to the Vantums in that it's predominantly a plastic build, and then also the backrest here, this back mesh on both chairs, is pretty scratchy. Racing style gaming chairs get a lot of hate, and I totally understand why. I do think that AndaSeat Kaiser 3 is a little bit different, and just as one anecdote, my assistant, who's 6'1", he's tested all my chairs, and I asked him to just test these two out really quickly, and he said, look, I prefer to sit in the Kaiser 3 over and against the Vantum, so I thought it'd be fun to bring this in and show some feature comparisons. Price-wise, the AndaSeat Kaiser 3 comes in about $400 to $500 US, so that comes in a bit cheaper than the Herman Miller Vantum. The first pro of the Kaiser 3 is that it's just a much wider and, again, open chair. And because of that, it's gonna be better for ergonomic rebels, and because it's soft all around and the seat is flat compared to other racing style gaming chairs that have bolsters and hard edges on the side, this chair doesn't have anything like that. So you're gonna be able to get a lot more room inside of this chair for people who are wider and for people who generally just like to kind of curl up and do things like that in your chair. Once again, in the Vantum, the seat is much more downward oriented, and so anytime, not only is the seat less wide so you don't get as much space in the chair, but then if you try to go into ergonomic rebel mode or something, there's just a little bit more pressure on the sides. Even if you open those thighs up, you just get a little bit more pressure digging into there. Also, the seat cushion on the Kaiser 3 is extremely dense. Like, look how thick that thing is. I've never once felt the bottom on that chair, again, compared to the Vantum, where I do feel like I'm feeling a little bit of a hard edge after about an hour or so. One of my favorite pros about all the racing style gaming chairs, and this seems to be something that's true about chairs built in Asia in general, is that you can actually tilt back and lock your chair in a tilt back position. So when I tilt back like this, if I were to go ahead and hit that lever, the back stays in that tilt back position, so I can lean back and not have to use any kind of muscle or worry about coming forward back inside of my chair. All the American-made chairs, the Haworths, the Steelcases, the Herman Millers, none of their chairs can do this. Instead, what you have to do is you have to loosen the back tilt tension all the way and then lean back. And then even then, there is some kind of danger, not danger, but there's like a little bit of fear in your body that the chair is gonna come back up, which means you gotta put a little bit of tension in your core and your legs to stay in that tilt back position. Now, one of the other things is that this is is as far back as I can go in this chair. And it's not bad, but I'm not totally lounging and relaxed. Compare that to this. So I'm gonna tilt back. Compare that, let me go even further here. Compare that to something like this, and then I can even go further like this. This is one of the best ways, best positions to watch a movie or to relax and read something on your screen. There's just nothing like it on the market except for in these racing style gaming chairs. And if you really wanted, you can go further back, and I guess you could nap in your chair. It's not exactly practical. The final pro is going to involve, like, I wouldn't call this a headrest, right? You can't really adjust it or anything, but the fact that it has a pillow and it has something that can sit here in the nook of your neck, or you can move it out of the way in case you wanted to, like, have, you know, just be able to exercise those neck muscles a little bit more. It's not bad. I like that. It's also magnetic. The biggest con about the AndaSeat Kaiser 3 is that the warranty is pretty crappy. That if you read the terms, it pretty much doesn't cover anything unless something happens accidentally. Not only that, but customer service seems to be hit or miss compared to all the other companies on this list. Now, another con is that this artificial leather is not very breathable. Now, I will say that because the cushion is still soft, but it's firm enough where it props you above it. You're not sinking into it, so you're not gonna be super duper hot like on those $200 gaming chairs you find on Amazon. So you're gonna be a little cooler than that, but relative to pretty much any chair on this list, you're gonna be significantly hotter in the AndaSeat Kaiser 3. Another con is that adjusting this chair to the exact way you want it is much more annoying than any other chair on this list. So case in point is that if you wanna control how easy it is to tilt back in your chair, the adjustment knob for that is actually located under the chair down here. So there's no way you can test it without having to physically get out of your chair and changing this knob up every single time. In addition to that, if you want to change your lumbar adjustments, well, the lumbar adjustment knob is actually over here. So I want you to just try to take your arm and reach backwards and level with where your shoulder is, and then try to turn. It's not very easy. It's actually pretty cumbersome. Make sure you like, subscribe, leave a comment, leave a donation. Until next time, stay honest.